All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at Texas A&M and Arkansas's top 25 matchup will be contested down in Arlington in Jerry's World. This series will be in Jerry's World for, the next 20 years, I think, or eternity. I don't know how long the deal is, but looking at the future schedules, these guys will be in Arlington for a long time to come. It's been a great series, 9-game winning streak for the Aggies. They've all been 1 or 2 score games, though. Arkansas has never been on top over the last decade or so, but they've played them very close. 5.5-point spread in favor of the Aggies. Over-under is set at 47. Looking at this Arkansas offense, KJ Jefferson, he took advantage of some off coverage versus Texas. Was able to get about 7-8 yards and move the sticks completely. They weren't very explosive, but he did exactly what they asked him to. The game plan was perfect because they were able to run the ball so strong. Jefferson, I thought he played a very masterful game. He's also really good with his legs. I think he's their second leading rusher right now. He's like Cam Newton in terms of size. He's also a really good runner in open field. No, not making a Newton comparison, but in terms of size and a little bit of the physicality part too, he's a really good runner in that aspect. They had some explosiveness in the passing game last week against Georgia Southern. 13 completions for 366 yards. That was a good secondary last year. They recorded a lot of interceptions and whatnot. And they had all these explosive plays go against them. It was nice to get it going. The vertical passing game, though, it's kind of been sluggish. Davion Warren, Tyson Morris, though, those are some big play guys. And then everyone knows about Trelon Burks, one of the nation's top pass catchers. He's very athletic. He can do a lot. Anything you ask him to do, curls, slants, comebacks, running deep downfield to make a play. Trelon Burks, he does it exceptionally well. He's going to have a big task in this game. He's going to have a big ball game for them to win. Even though the identity of this offense is to dominate the trenches and run the ball. Texas, they had 7 tackles for loss against Arkansas, which is a good number considering they allowed 330 rushing yards. It's got absolutely dominated. Sam Pittman, his bread and butter is the offensive line. He's going to want a big physical and strong offensive front. They've done that so far. Very intense, especially with the physicality. 282 yards per game on the ground, 11 touchdowns. Nice little rotation. They have 4 or 5 different guys who have 100-plus yards. Lead back, Trelon Smith. Jefferson, as I mentioned earlier, Rahiem Sanders, Dominique Johnson. You're going to see all those guys get involved in this game. So that's going to be a big task for A&M to contain all the running backs Arkansas has because there's going to be fresh bodies in there all night long. It's kind of like Alabama's a good comparison. They have a lot of deep talent and nice rotation. They're going to be throwing fresh bodies at you for 60 minutes. So how will they match up with that? We'll get to that later, but we'll go ahead and move to the Texas A&M offense. Zach Calzada, and at quarterback for the injured Hayden's King, he was not good in relief versus Colorado at all. He stepped up late in the final 2 drives, let him downfield on both. Fumbled at the 1-yard line when he tried to make a play on a run. The next drive, he let him downfield for the game winner. So he stepped up. He's got a little bit of clutch gene in him, it looks like. They're going to tailor the game plan around him a little bit more. Even though his play style is kind of similar to King, there's not much of a difference. Made some good plays in the passing game versus New Mexico. Not a good opponent at all, but he's not been very accurate. He was able to get it to his guys. Lane Demas, he stepped up last week in his first career appearance. I think they're going to gradually put him more into the offense as the year goes on. He's a big play guy, though, from what he did in high school, and then, of course, that big 70-yard touchdown against New Mexico. He's a big play guy. You're going to want to see him get involved here. The running attack, it hasn't been very good. Well, it's been solid. The only Power 5 team they played was Colorado through the first 3 games so far, and they were held to less than 100 yards. It's a good defense they played, so give them credit for that. Aggies replaced 4 starters up front. Kenyon Green, the only one back. Jalen Wydermyer at tight end. He's their best pass catcher. You're going to see him get involved a lot. They like to get him involved in play action. He's a big threat down the middle of the field too. So Wydermyer is one of those guys to watch. Back to the running game, though, Devon Achance, Isaiah Spiller, 200-plus rushing so far this year, shaping up as one of the top running back duos in the country. They both stepped up as pass catchers, too, in that game against Colorado. Again, they're going to tailor the passing attack a little bit more around Calzada and what he's comfortable with. So you'll see guys like Caleb Chapman, Chase Lane get involved. Aniahas Smith as well is incredibly versatile. You're going to see him get involved in those screens, short passes, I think, to try to ease some of the pressure off this offensive line because for Arkansas, they've been really physical in the trenches so far. We'll get to that in a minute. But the A&M offense has been kind of sluggish so far. The Colorado game was just completely embarrassing. They probably should have lost that game. The other 2 games, Kent State, New Mexico, not a great sample size. But Calzada, he's not been very accurate. And they didn't have that running game to lean on against Colorado. I think you could probably see the same here. We're not really sure what to expect. I'm not sure how he's going to play. Again, though, they have been focusing on tailoring this game to what he's good with. So he could have a nice game. He's clearly got a clutch gene. He's a fighter. He doesn't back down. The Colorado game was really impressive, even though he poured play. What was it, like 17 completions on 40 attempts or something. Underthrows, overthrows, just pure bad throws, not accurate. He wasn't very good in that game, but, we'll see what happens. I think Jumbo Fisher has some good faith in what Zach Calzada can do, but I think the offense is really going to tailor around how he plays, because even if the Aggies run the ball pretty solidly, if they're not going to be able to throw the ball off play action or when they need him to step up on third down, then that's going to be a big problem for them. Looking at the Hogs' defense, they've yet to allow 400 yards in the trenches. 400 yards this year, and it starts with the trenches. Their defensive line, 3 transfers anchor this defensive front. These guys have been great getting off blocks, creating penetration. Tre Williams, John Ridgeway lead the way. Those are 2 of the transfers. And then the front 7, it's even better. Bumper Pool, Grant Morgan, and 2 veterans at linebacker. But Hayden Henry has really stepped up for this defense. He leads them in tackles for loss. I think the number's 3.5 so far. This front 7, these guys are full of energy, playing with a chip on their shoulder, really good. They dominated Texas. I said they've yet to allow 400 yards yet. What is it? They play Rice, Georgia Southern, then Texas. So small sample size. Tremendous improvements, though. Last year, this defense was a big problem for them. I think, I think they allowed 600 yards at one point. They didn't get better throughout the year. Started out on the right foot. This pass defense, it was terrible last season. Texas, I'd say, has a better wide receiver core per se than the Aggies. So they've already had, they've already been thrown to the Wolves a little bit this year. And they kind of got beat a little bit. Hudson Card overthrew a few guys that were wide open on numerous occasions, it felt like. I wouldn't say wide open, but they had a step or two. The physicality up front was a big reason why the passing game wasn't able to get going for Texas. I think you could see a similar game plan here against the Aggies. I think you could see the similar thing playing out. Still a lot to learn about this secondary in this game. They seems they have a pretty even matchup here. You're probably going to learn a lot. Jalen Catalon at safety, he's a high energy guy. 2 picks already this year. He's one of their top tacklers a year ago. This guy is just an incredible ball player. Catalon will be an All-American candidate in the conference for sure. All around, though, the physicality's really stood out in the front 7. These guys are going to be anchoring the defense all year long. It's an elite defense for the Aggies. They've only allowed 17 points in 3 games. Again, not great opponents. Kent State, New Mexico, and then Colorado. They've really stepped up, though, in that game when they needed them to. They completely shut down the run. They were getting a little beat up in that first half against Colorado. Shut the Buffaloes down over the final 30 minutes. They're only allowing 239 yards a game. It's no slouch. This defense was really good last year. They were second best in FBS against the run. These guys are incredibly stout in the front 7. And I mentioned how deep Arkansas is at running back. Well, they're incredibly deep themselves on the defensive line. Is the Aggies, Jadeon, Peavy, Michael Clemmons, DeMarvin Leal. It gets even better than that, with Tyree Johnson. These guys are really good on the defensive front. There's a reason why they were really good against the run last year. They're very physical. They're big. They're nasty. Linebacker Aaron Hansfield's a big part of that run defense as well. He was the second leading tackler a year ago for the Aggies. Buddy Johnson, Bobby Brown, both of those guys in the front 7 are gone. That's a linebacker and defensive lineman, respectively, for those that aren't aware. So they did lose 2 very big key contributors from last year's unit, but they really are just reloading here, like what this front 7 has to offer. You look at the back end, Demani, Richardson, Leon O'Neal. These guys are incredibly physical. They fly to the ball. O'Neal had 2 picks versus Kent State. Leon O'Neal, this guy, he's physical. He's nasty in his own right. High energy guy, just kind of like Jalen Catalon is. Leon O'Neal is such a good player. He's a fun guy to watch. Demani Richardson as well. The Aggies' pass defense, it was shaky at times last year. They're going to have to contain Treylon Burks the best they can, and some of the speedsters that Arkansas has. I think there might be some gaps that the Aggies might fall victim to here against Arkansas. You'll find out that they have a really good pass rush. That was one of their best aspects last year. They weren't good against the run. They were good against the pass rush too. So they weren't just good against the run last year. They had a phenomenal pass rush as well, off to another good start. So this is a great matchup. Both teams are really sturdy and aggressive in the trenches. Arkansas has made tremendous improvements, while the Aggies on the offensive front They're replacing a lot of guys. They'll get there eventually, but this is a really tough matchup for them because the Hogs have really impressed on the defensive front in their own right. Two really good defenses in this game, though. We'll go ahead and move to team comparisons to see who has the edge. Looking at who's the advantage at quarterback, KJ Jefferson. Arkansas gives them an edge. Calzada has not really played great so far. Small sample size, but Jefferson, we saw him last year. He was able to step up and lead them back against Missouri. He executed the game plan perfectly against Texas, and then he was able to hit up his pass catchers for some big explosive plays last week against GSU. They have an edge with him. Sam Pittman really likes who he has at quarterback, a dual threat guy who can really do it all. I really trust him not to turn the football over as well. I think Jefferson, coming into the year, I was really high on him. I think he's exceeded expectations. You won't really see it on the stat sheet per se, but when you watch him play, you'll see this guy's a really good quarterback. I think he's going to have a big-time season for the Hogs. The edge at running back, got to give it to A&M, Achance and Spiller. These guys are on their way to becoming the nation's top running back duo. They're incredibly deep over there in Fayetteville, but in terms of a clear 1-2 punch, I think the Aggies got them beat in that area. Looking at receiver, I like the depth a little bit more for the Aggies as well. Trelon Burks is the best pass catcher probably in the entire conference, but the depth isn't exactly there. Losing Mike Woods really hurt them. Chase Lane, Caleb Chapman, they got guys who are capable of making plays. Demas, you're seeing him step up last week. He's going to get more involved in the offense. Really deep for the Aggies, and they have one of the nation's best in their own right in tight end Jalen Wydermyer. So in terms of pass catchers, the Aggies get the edge there. Looking at the Hogs' offensive line, I give them the edge here. Myron Cunningham, left tackle, Dalton Wagner at right. A lot of guys are really stepping up. They got a couple of veterans on this unit up front as well. They've been very physical to start the year. They've been a big reason why they are the reason why they ran the ball so well. You know, the Aggies, they replaced a lot of starters. They do have Kenyon Green, probably going to go first round next year, but altogether, they have recruited very well too, but still very young. And Colorado really held this running game in check as well. So Arkansas gets the edge there. Defensive line, I just praised how much depth they have over in College Station on the defensive front. That and the pass rush will go to the Aggies. Those three transfers, I mentioned two of them, but there is three of them on the defensive front that are anchoring it down. Those guys are playing phenomenal. You know, John Ridgeway especially. Love this defensive front for Arkansas. So it's no knock, but A&M just has the better depth, the better pass rush altogether. And then DeMarvin Leal, this guy's a complete game record. Put him inside, put him outside. Tough ask for this offensive line to defend. Arkansas gets the linebacker edge. You know, Hayden Henry has stepped up. Grant Morgan and Bumper Pool, they're the top two players on this defense outside of Catalon. They were last year too. It's phenomenal playmakers. Morgan does everything for them. 100-plus tackles last year. Had a couple of picks. A lot of tackle for losses. Just an overall great playmaker in Grant Morgan. The Aggies, I give them the edge in the secondary. Richardson, O'Neal, Miles Jones has been a very consistent corner throughout his career. They have a nice secondary here. Interested to see how they match up with Trelon Burks. Will they shade to his side of the field or just play their normal coverage? Who knows? I think it'll be fun to watch. I do give them the edge in the secondary, even though Jalen Catalon himself is really good. But this secondary for Arkansas last year, not a thing. They were not very good. They recorded some good picks. I mean, they had 6 picks in one game against Matt Corral, and then 5 the rest of the way. So the stat sheet indicates they had a good year, but in reality, not exactly. For the keys to the game, Arkansas, I think they need to control the A&M defensive line. Impose your physicality. Just moderate them a little bit. Just don't get over. You don't have to completely overpower them like you did against Texas. I think you have to moderate them. I don't think that's really a possibility here, just to completely overpower them. Just moderate them a little bit. Be a serviceable offensive line. Allow you to control the clock a little bit. Because that's the best thing you can do is control this clock. That's what A&M wants to do. That's what they did so good last year. They're going to want to do it again with inexperienced quarterback that hasn't played great so far. So you want to flip the script and you want to control the clock to make Calzada feel uncomfortable, make him have to win the game again with his arm. He was able to do it against Colorado, but this is a little bit. I give the Buffaloes an edge on defense. I think that's a really good unit. So I'm not going to say Arkansas is a better defense by any stretch, but it's still going to be a perfect game plan. That's what you're going to want to do, and I do think they'll unleash some stuff towards the end of the game in terms of stunts and blitzes that will really make Calzada. Barry Odom will figure out a way to get to this quarterback. So if you can have a lead late, you can control the clock. I believe that Barry Odom will end up being the fourth quarter of the MVP if you're in that position. For the Aggies, again, get Calzada comfortable. Really just flipping scripts on both sides here. You want to get your quarterback comfortable. He needs to make plays on play action. So you're going to have success running the ball. I think they will. I think they'll run the ball for about 150, 180 yards, somewhere in there. I think they'll have some pretty solid success running the ball, even though, they don't really have that home crowd. I mean, they're near home, but it's not like their home stadium where they were just rowdy as could be, and Texas got nothing going on the ground. I think A&M will have a little bit more of a deceptive game plan here. So I think you'll see him running for about 150 yards, and that includes the plays Calzada could make with his legs as well. That's it for them, though. Just make plays on play action, get him comfortable. You don't want him turning over the ball. And then, get into the game pick, 9 straight for the Aggies. Will they make it 10? No, I'm picking Arkansas in this game, 23-19. Look, I think that Sam Pittman is doing a great job with these guys in the trenches. They're playing very disciplined football. They don't really have a tough matchup here either with Calzada. I don't think he's going to step up and be able to carry this offense because I do think A&M will run for 150 yards, but they're also going to carry it about 50 times. They're going to stick to it, and they're going to try to get it going. And they'll be able to do that because I don't see Arkansas taking off to a 2 or 3 possession lead or anything like that. I think this is going to be a one-score game the whole way. I have the Hogs winning 23-19. I think this will be a really great game, as it always this year in Arlington. I will go with the Hogs, though, in this one. So that's going to wrap everything up for today. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment below who you think is going to win. See you next time.